Welcome back to Finding Stardust. In the last video, we talked about the 4 energy vampire types. If you haven't seen that video, please do check it out. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can set effective boundaries and protect yourself against energy vampires. Before we get into the detail, I do want to say that we need to approach this from a compassionate stance or angle, because I think most of the time, energy vampires do not even realize that they have that effect on people, or if they do, they don't necessarily know exactly what to do about it, and so they are in a difficult position as well. Or it could be the case that a lot of these negative behaviors are playing out at a subconscious level, and therefore we do want to exercise that degree of empathy towards them and not judge too harshly. As is the case with pretty much every video I make, I always say that awareness or self-awareness is key. So the first step is just becoming aware that there is an energy vampire in your life. And the tell sign obviously is when you start feeling very drained, very depleted, exhausted, after some kind of interaction with this person. And it doesn't necessarily need to be face-to-face interaction. It could be the case that you're messaging them, but they're still draining your energy, or you've just gotten off a call and you feel completely exhausted. So that's the clear sign that you're dealing with an energy vampire. So just make a mental note of that, and then we'll move on to the next steps. So once you've identified that there is probably an energy vampire in your life, we need to think about which type of energy vampire they are. So do check out the video that I made about the 4 energy vampire types, because it's a slightly different way to deal with each of those energy vampire types, and I'll go through that in a little bit more detail towards the end of the video. At this evaluation stage, it's really good to be very specific and very precise about the impact that this energy vampire has on you. So do they make you feel afraid? Do they make you feel drained? Do they make you sad? Like all of these emotions that come up, put it all down so that you become crystal clear about the toll that this relationship is having on you. At this stage, we want to think about what the intentions are with regards to this relationship dynamic. In some cases, you may want to walk away. You just don't want to have that person in your life. But I know in many cases, particularly if it's, very close friends or family members or even your partner perhaps, you don't necessarily want to or cannot walk away because you feel this sense of responsibility, or there's this close bond despite the fact that they are having a negative impact on you. You have to recognize that it's so crucially important to protect yourself and to protect your energy. If you don't, then energy vampires will keep taking and taking. And not only that, you will carry on attracting a lot of energy vampires in your life until you learn how to effectively set boundaries and how to increase your self-worth to the extent where boundary setting becomes a very natural and, dare I say it, easy process for you. This part is very much tied up to your sense of self-worth, because the greater the degree of self-worth and self-esteem you have, the better typically you will be as it relates to boundary setting. So that's a big piece of work, I think, with regards to increasing your sense of self-worth and self-esteem so that you feel much more comfortable and much more empowered to set boundaries. I'm happy to make a video on that. If you think it would be helpful, please do let me know in the comments below. Decide on how much time and energy you are willing to invest in that person if it is somebody you still want to have in your life. But really, it's a case of limiting the exposure that you have to them. Let's say you currently see them on a weekly basis. Maybe you need to move it to the point where you see them once a month. Let's say you see them face to face. Maybe it's better if you just have a phone call or a video call. So these less in-person interactions, less kind of intense interactions, will reduce the impact that the energy vampire can have on you. The next step is to be able to communicate effectively your boundaries to the energy vampire. You need to very clearly, but obviously at the same time respectfully, communicate your boundaries to this person. So for example, if you are dealing with an intimidator energy vampire and they start shouting or sort of being, quite aggressive, then you need to really stand your ground. And this is where the grounding exercise will be very helpful for you. Maintain and actually think about the energetic distance that you have. So try to create that energetic distance. I can make some videos on this if you would find that helpful. And really confidently and assertively say, for example, please do not raise your voice. It makes me feel uncomfortable when you speak to me like that. If you're dealing with an interrogator energy vampire and they start asking you very personal questions about your love life or your finances, for example, then you can keep redirecting the conversation. That's a more gentle way of setting boundaries. So don't answer the question directly, but divert it to something else, change the topic. The other thing that you can do is address it head on and say, I don't feel comfortable talking about that right now. Can we change the subject? Another one that's a favorite of mine, especially when I'm dealing with people who haven't established rapport but ask really personal questions, I just say to them, it's a long story. I'll tell you some other time. If you're dealing with an aloof energy vampire, don't engage in that kind of cat and mouse chase game where you're trying to get their attention and get their validation or get energy back from them. Just stop. Pull your energy back into yourself rather than constantly giving it to them. They will feel that that energy flow has stopped and then they will come towards you. Then you need to clearly communicate about how you want to communicate with them. So for example, if they avoid actual face-to-face interactions but prefer to just, keep you hanging by messaging you once in a while, then just say to them, look, if you want to have some kind of relationship dynamic with me, then we need to either be talking on the phone, having a video call, or meeting in person. It's so much more difficult for them to run away from that. If you're face to face, for example, so much more difficult for them to be aloof. And if they turn up and they don't really contribute anything to that kind of dynamic and they're not really engaging with you, then you really need to have a think about whether you want this person in your life. When it comes to dealing with the poor me energy vampires, then there's one formula that I find works very well for me, and that is I will give them some time initially and show them, as much compassion and empathy as possible. Let's say I've given them some tips and suggestions for what they can do to improve things in their life, but they still come back to me and haven't done anything that I've suggested, or perhaps it's not something that I've suggested, but done something else to try and make the situation better. I might give them another chance because I know change doesn't happen straight away. But if they carry on doing this and I feel depleted, then I'll just say to them, look, I've given you all that I can. So why don't you go away, take some action, and then we can talk once you've taken some action. Finally, I just want to say, when it comes to dealing with energy vampires, the more you can limit your exposure to them, the better things will be for you. Build in some time when you can just be alone to recharge, or be out in nature, or do something positive that's going to really uplift you, or spend time with some positive and uplifting people, or watch some of my videos. Finally, I just want to leave you with this thought. The energy that you have belongs to you, and energy vampires, whether they're doing it intentionally or unintentionally or subconsciously, are taking your energy away from you. Remember, it's not about pushing people away, it's about protecting your life energy, which is the most precious thing that you have. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you giving me some of your life energy. If you found it helpful, please do let me know in the comments below, and also let me know if there's any other topics that you want me to cover or to go into into in a bit more detail, because obviously with this video I can't cover every single point. Please do subscribe if you haven't done so already, and also sign up for my mailing list where I share some musings about life as an INFJ, empath and highly sensitive person, which you may find helpful. Until next time, take care and have a beautiful day. Bye!